He posted a photo of them kissing in Barcelona. I opened the storage unit he forgot he still paid for, and found everything he thought he left behind. It was the middle of a Tuesday. The kind of day where the house still smelled faintly of coffee and half-folded laundry. Mia was at school, and I had just finished sketching revisions for a preservation project when the notification lit up my phone. At Daniel Travels just posted for the fee. Our ST time in a while. I didn't plan to open it, but I did. Reflex, maybe. Or the kind of curiosity that follows betrayal even after it's been confirmed. There it was, Daniel, smiling on a rooftop in Spain, arm around Ava Delgado, his business partner, their lips touching under a caption that read, "Starting new chapters where life feels real again." I didn't scream, I didn't call, I didn't cry, I just stared at the screen while my tea went cold. The man who once cried in my lap after losing a client now held someone else like she was the reward he earned for surviving me. He hadn't officially told me. Just left a note 3 weeks earlier. "I need time, I'll be in touch." No explanation, just silence and now content. He turned our collapse into a carousel of curated memories that didn't include me or our daughter. Mia saw it before I could hide it. She looked at the screen, then at me. Her face didn't crumple. She just whispered, "I knew it," and went upstairs. Her voice was flat, practiced, as if she'd been preparing for the moment her father stopped pretending. That night, I sat in the garage surrounded by his empty shelves. I noticed a slip of paper under a box of old camera gear. A storage receipt, months old, Unit 7B, still active, his name, his billing info. I remembered then, he never canceled it. Just moved out and left the past packed away. The next morning, I drove there, alone. The key was still on the ring he forgot on his nightstand. When I opened the metal door, the smell hit me first. Dust, cardboard, and the faint echo of something unfinished. What I found wasn't just boxes, it was proof, his first love letter to me. Folded into a journal, Mia's first drawing, framed in a cheap wood border, my blue scarf, the one he said he lost in Iceland, and a file folder, labeled 2019, legal/private. My fingers didn't shake, but my throat did inside. A draft of a separation agreement, unsigned, dated 2 years before he left, notes in the margins in his handwriting, "Don't show yet. Wait until after Spain." I closed the file and sat on a milk crate, not crying, just absorbing the confirmation that I hadn't been abandoned spontaneously. I'd been scheduled. He planned the disappearance, timed it with grace, masked it as reinvention. But he forgot something essential. Paper doesn't delete like a post. And he left me the paper. I took pictures of everything. Each document, each note, each object he left behind, thinking it no longer had weight. But it did. It had mass, it had meaning. And now, it had me. That night, I returned home and placed the file in my drawer next to our marriage certificate. 2 documents. One built a life. The other proved he tried to exit it silently. Now they sat together, waiting. Gives that wasn't a storage unit. It was a time capsule of betrayal he never thought I'd open. He said I was his safe place. I didn't know he meant I was just a layover before his real destination. We met at a friend's wedding. Fitting, I guess. He was the photographer, and I was the exhausted maid of honor trying to keep the bride from fainting. He offered me a bottle of water and said, "You have the calmest face I've ever seen." That was his opening line. I believed it. Daniel was all light and momentum. He talked fast. Dreamed bigger, kissed like the world might end. I was steadier, slower to speak, quicker to listen. He said I made him feel grounded. I mistook that for love. What he wanted was a place to rest. Our relationship was a fast build. Like one of his time-lapse videos. In 6 months we were living together. In a year, married. He couldn't afford a ring, so I paid for it. He said he'd make it up to me someday. I didn't realize I'd be waiting forever. The early years were full of beauty in small ways. He'd take photos of me cooking, working, sleeping. "You make the ordinary look cinematic," he said once. But the lens was always his. I was the subject, never the storyteller. When Mia was born, he cried like I'd never seen before, told me she was the moment everything clicked. He took hundreds of pictures of her, posted only 2. The rest sat in drives he said he'd edit when things slowed down. Things never did. I went back to work early. He was still chasing gigs. I paid the rent, the daycare, the groceries. He said my stability gave him freedom. I wore that as a compliment. It was actually an omen. We bought a small house when Mia turned 4. I signed the mortgage. He picked the door color, we argued about wallpaper, but not about love. That was the danger. We confused shared goals with shared souls. As his social media following grew, so did the distance. He posted travel tips and captions about pursuing joy, while I managed school drop-offs and septic leaks. He said I wouldn't enjoy some of the trips. I believed him. I let him go without me. He called me his compass in interviews. She keeps me steady, he'd say, but he never said I built the maps. I gave him direction and he followed it somewhere I wasn't invited. When the pandemic hit, he spiraled. No gigs, no travel. He panicked. I held him, fed him, took extra projects to cover the bills. He said I saved his life, but once his passport reopened, he stopped needing saving, or so he thought. Ava appeared subtly at first, a tagged photo, a mutual follow, a comment, brilliant capture. I asked once who she was, just someone who admires the work. He said, I dropped it. I had deadlines, a house, a child. I didn't have time for jealousy. On our 10th anniversary, he gave me a plane ticket to Morocco. For him, a solo trip. For the brand, he said, we'll celebrate later. He never rebooked. I told myself marriages go through seasons, that I was just winter and spring would come. But the truth was, I'd been living in a drought, and he'd been building a greenhouse with someone else. Gibbs, I wasn't his anchor. I was the runway he left once he learned to fly. He stopped asking if I ate, but asked if I could like his posts from another account to boost engagement. It was subtle, at first, a comment here, a missing thank you there. He stopped kissing my cheek before leaving the house, but still reminded me to share his latest video. I became part of his algorithm, not his affection. He started referring to me as Mia's mom at events, not Emily, not my wife. I asked him once why. He laughed and said, it's relatable branding. I laughed too. But it never left my chest. Dinners became one-sided conversations. Me, exhausted, asking about his travel plans. Him, eyes on his phone, nodding occasionally. Replying only to texts with heart emojis and usernames I didn't recognize. He started bringing home souvenirs from places I wasn't invited to. Trinkets I didn't need. A magnet from Lisbon. A bracelet from Bali. But never anything that meant he had thought about me. Only that he remembered I existed. I found a receipt for a perfume I didn't wear. A gift bag hidden in the back seat. When I asked about it, he said it was for a giveaway. I didn't ask again. I already knew the kind of giveaway that left lipstick on his collar. Mia began drawing pictures with only 2 figures. Just her and me. When I asked why Dad wasn't in them, she shrugged and said, he's usually on his phone. I tucked the drawings in a folder, each one louder than any confession. He forgot our anniversary, not by a day, by a week. When I reminded him, he panicked, then blamed his schedule. I said nothing. I just looked at the calendar, circled in red, and wondered how invisible a woman has to be forgotten by the man she built. He once told me, I miss the way we used to laugh. I wanted to say, I miss the way you used to listen. But I just nodded. Silence became the safer answer. His suitcase stayed half-packed for months, always ready, always somewhere else in his mind. He stopped unpacking fully, and I stopped pretending. He would. At one point, I suggested we take a trip, just the 2 of us. He said, you'd hate the pace I travel at now, as if joy had become a race, as if I was too slow to follow. He began sleeping on the edge of the bed, then on the couch, then not at all. He said it was jet lag. I said okay, but the time zones weren't the reason. It was the emotional distance, not the miles. He started calling Ava a colleague in public, but with too much reverence. The kind that slipped into his tone like a secret he wanted to tell but didn't dare admit. One night, I opened his laptop to send myself a file. His email was open. The drafts folder was full of half-written messages, none to me. One started with, you make me feel new again. It wasn't for me. It never had been. I closed it, sat on the floor, listened to the dishwasher hum like a heartbeat. I realized I wasn't crazy. I was just being prepared for replacement. Gibbs, he didn't leave all at once. He just stopped coming back a little more each day. He told the world he was redefining freedom, and told me, by silence, that I was no longer part of it. I saw the post before he told me. A carousel of sunlit cafes, cobblestone alleys, and sunsets over tiled rooftops. Him and Ava. In Spain, her in a linen dress, him holding her waist. Caption, real love is built when you stop looking for approval. There was no announcement, no separation notice, no call, just this. an aesthetic reveal, curated in filters and irony. He left our marriage like he left the house, quietly. But with an audience waiting, I texted once. Mia saw the post. He replied hours later, "Wasn't planned that way. Please manage the reaction," as if I was still part of his PR team, as if I hadn't just watched our life get replaced in pixels. Ava posted too. A video of them laughing over sangria. The music in the background was one of our songs, a detail only I would notice. I watched it 3 times before deleting the app. Not because it hurt, because I refused to give them another view. Friends started messaging, "Is everything okay? Is that really Daniel with her?" I answered none. If I responded, I'd be forced to explain how a man can disappear. While still updating his followers daily, Mia asked that night, "Do we still use his last name?" I didn't have an answer. She was 15, old enough to translate betrayal, young enough to still hope for a version of her dad that might someday return. Days later, a delivery arrived, a package addressed to him. I opened it. Inside, custom passport covers. Embossed initials, DC and AD, one in navy, one in blush. Tied together with a silk ribbon, there was no note, just the message stamped inside, "Let's see the world." Finally, I didn't break down. I walked into the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and stared out the window, the same way I used to wait for him to come home. Only now, I wasn't waiting. I was calculating. He had posted the date of their trip. The timeline overlapped with what was supposed to be our family weekend, the one I planned to. Surprise. Mia with, I remembered him saying, "Let's push it. Work's crazy." He said that as he was booking flights with someone else. He didn't block me. That was the insult. He wanted me to see, or didn't care if I did. Maybe both. Maybe betrayal doesn't always hide. Sometimes it performs. The next morning, Mia handed me a paper, a list of places she wanted to visit. For us someday, she said. I folded it and placed it in my drawer, right next to the separation draft I found in the storage unit. I didn't call him. I didn't confront Ava. I didn't post. I simply walked into the storage office that week and asked to update the contact info. The clerk said, "You're still the authorized manager on the lease." He never changed it. He forgot I still held the key and the paper trail. Inside that unit, I found what he thought was buried. The envelope marked private. The draft of a life exit plan. It wasn't just about Spain. He had been planning his erasure for years. Carefully, cowardly, I took the envelope, added the new photos, and labeled it with a date, the day I was replaced publicly. Then I added a new one, the day I stopped waiting privately. Gives he didn't cheat quietly, he just broadcasted my silence to make room for his reinvention. He never said goodbye, so I stopped waiting for a return and started packing the version of me he left behind. After Spain, he didn't come back, not even to collect his things. His side of the closet stayed full, like a museum of a man who had already moved on emotionally but forgot to take his body with him. I started folding his shirts, not for love. For removal, I boxed up his camera gear. The same lenses he used to photograph me when we were still us, each item placed carefully but without sentiment. This wasn't revenge. This was reclamation. Mia didn't ask questions anymore. She came home, did her homework, and sat close to me on the couch without saying much. Her silence matched mine. Not cold, just calibrated. To women adjusting to the absence of a man who thought they'd fall apart, I updated the house records, took his name off the utility bills, changed the emergency contact at Mia's school. Each form I filled felt lighter than the last, like removing someone from a system that had already evicted him emotionally. He texted once, "Can we talk soon?" I stared at the screen, then archived the message. Some talks don't need to happen, especially when the silence already said everything. I reopened my architecture firm's dormant account. It had sat untouched since I scaled back for his schedule, his travels, his ambitions. I renamed it Blueprints and Backbones. Mia helped design the logo. It felt right. I cleared the guest room and turned it into my office, not for clients yet. For myself, a place that was mine, built by my hours, my thoughts, my hands. The air in that room smelled like paper and possibility. One evening, I walked past the wedding album. It was still on the shelf. I pulled it down page by page. Our smiles, our vows, the blurred pictures of hope. I removed the final photo, the one of us holding Mia as a baby. I placed it in a new frame, just her. I called the storage unit Asked to change the payment method, the manager said, "Actually, the account's 2 months overdue. Want to close it?" I paused, then said, "Not yet." I had plans for that unit. Mia asked if she could start using Carter as her middle name instead of her last. I nodded. "It's yours to move around," I told her. She smiled and whispered, "So are we." I stopped cooking for 3. Started lighting 1 candle at dinner. Not 2. I used the good wine glasses, the ones we saved for celebrations. I toasted to quiet, to clarity, to stillness with substance. My sister came to visit and said, "You look taller." I laughed, not because it was true physically, but because I felt it internally, less hunched, less braced, less afraid of the next absence. I didn't tell anyone we were done. There was no need. My posture, my silence, my reorganization of space said everything. You don't have to scream to show a chapter has closed. You just stop rereading the last page. Gibbs, he left for freedom. I stayed for truth. And that was the beginning of mine. He changed his life on Instagram, but forgot that legally, I still held the keys to his past. It was supposed to be a routine errand. I needed old blueprints for a renovation proposal and remembered I had stored my originals in the back corner of the unit. I hadn't returned since the day I found the envelope, but something in me said, "Go back." The door creaked open with a sound that felt like memory inside. The light buzzed above stacks of boxes he never claimed. I sifted through them, plans, receipts, old film rolls. And then, under a folder marked EU Docs, I saw it. A notarized letter, addressed to me, never delivered. The letter was from his attorney, dated for months before Spain. Drafted to initiate the separation quietly, but at the bottom, in his own handwriting, a sticky note clung. "Delay might shift timing if Ava's visa clears." My breath didn't catch, it anchored. I finally saw what this was. Not confusion, not impulse, a plan with my name omitted, my timeline erased, but legally the draft was never sent. And the storage lease was still under my name. That mattered. Behind that letter, another folder, their travel bookings, his and Ava's, flights, lodging, expense reports. And most damning, a signed letter from Daniel requesting a business visa for her, listing their relationship as domestic partner, filed while we were still legally married. I photographed everything, each line, each date. Each signature, not for confrontation, for confirmation. He'd built his new life on a foundation of fraud and forgetfulness, but I remembered everything, and now, I had it all, in paper, not pixels. I met with my lawyer the next morning. Spread the documents across her desk like evidence in a quiet trial. She read in silence, then said, "He's exposed. This isn't just infidelity, it's misrepresentation." I didn't smile. I just nodded. We filed the motion to freeze joint assets until full legal clarity. Because the account he used to pay for Spain, still partially under my name, he never untangled his freedom from my foundation. He just hoped I wouldn't notice. I contacted the storage facility next. Told them I'd be emptying the unit, but not before scanning every piece of paperwork. Contracts, scripts, licensing agreements he claimed were lost. Some were forged, all carried consequences. At home, I logged into the publishing platform he used for his travel blog. The credentials, still saved on our shared drive. I didn't touch the posts. I didn't hack anything. I downloaded the drafts folder and sent it to my attorney. One entry read, "This next chapter begins with truth." It was dated the week he lied to me. Mia walked in as I was organizing the files. She asked, "Are we going to tell people?" I said, "Not yet." She looked at the open folder and whispered, "You already did, though just not with words." The next day, a notice was sent to Daniel's new sponsor, a travel brand that had hired him and Ava as ambassadors. My lawyer simply asked for confirmation of marital status and disclosure of prior fraud claims. No accusations, just questions. 3 days later, their contract was suspended for internal review. No drama, no headlines, just a pause. The kind that feels like thunder in the silence. Gibbs, he thought he was free, but freedom built on lies always has a receipt, and I kept every single one. He curated a life for strangers, but forgot I still had the paper trail that could dismantle the illusion. The cease and desist letter arrived at his temporary address in Madrid. Signed and sealed, not from me, from the brand attorney representing his former sponsor. It wasn't malicious, just procedural. They cited discrepancies in declared marital status and concerns raised regarding documentation. His silence was my statement. He called once, a missed call at 2:17 a.m., no voicemail. Just a notification that reminded me he still hadn't changed his number, that told me everything. He thought there was still a door open. There wasn't. I never blocked him. I didn't need to. Watching the ripple of quiet consequences was enough. His blog went offline for restructuring. The brand removed his highlight reel. Ava archived their photos. Their narrative cracked without even one post from me. Meanwhile, my attorney submitted the evidence to the court, the unsigned separation letter, the visa sponsorship application. During marriage, the financial overlap, we didn't ask for drama. Just asset freeze and primary custody, both granted within 2 weeks. I walked into that storage unit one final time. This time, not to search, but to end it. I packed only one box, the evidence. Neatly categorized, the rest I left with a note, unclaimed memory, disposed by choice. The clerk didn't ask questions. At Mia's school, I updated my emergency contacts. When they asked about Daniel, I said unavailable. That was all. Not dead, not erased, just irrelevant. The silence grew loud in the right places. My firm's new launch went live the same week his content died. Blueprints and backbones trended briefly. Women sent emails saying my story inspired them. I hadn't even told it, but they saw enough in the absence. Ava emailed me once. A single line, "We didn't mean for this to hurt you." I didn't reply because we never included me, and intention never rewrites betrayal. The real win wasn't his public silence. It was private erosion. The travel gigs dried up, the consulting roles paused, because no brand wants to be the punchline of a hidden clause. He didn't fall loudly. He simply stopped rising. Mia turned 16 that month. She asked to skip the party. She just wanted a quiet dinner with me. Just us. She said, like always. We ordered takeout, lit a candle, and played cards. It was perfect. That night, she handed me a small box. Inside was a bracelet, silver, simple, engraved. It read, "For the woman who doesn't need applause." I cried for the first time, not from pain, from recognition. I opened a new storage unit the next day. Not for old memories. For expansion inventory, my firm needed space. I signed the lease with my name, just mine. Gives he tried to erase me in Europe, but I rewrote myself in every corner he forgot to close. He vanished into a country. I stepped fully into my name. Mornings are slower now, not empty, just intentional. I make my coffee in silence, open the windows, and let the house breathe with me. The air feels lighter. I no longer brace myself for a door that won't open. The office is full of sketches again, not of homes, of second chances. My first independent restoration contract begins next month. The building? A forgotten library from the 1800s, poetic, really reviving. Something that was left to decay in silence. Mia keeps her drawings on the fridge. One caught my eye last week, two women holding hands, standing on a mountain. In her handwriting, she'd written, "Redesigned, not ruined." I took a photo. I didn't ask her to explain. She already had. I never changed my last name, not because of him, because it's mine now, in a way it never was when we shared it. It holds my daughter, my work, and my rebuild. I gave it new architecture. The storage unit is gone, cleared, replaced with a fresh lease in my business name. I kept one item, the blue scarf, not as a wound, as a flag. A reminder of everything I was told was lost, but wasn't. I heard he moved again, Portugal, maybe, another reinvention, another new city that doesn't know his history. Let him try. The thing about reinvention is, it only works when the truth doesn't follow. And mine always will, not in scandal, but in structure. No. One applauded when I rebuilt, and that was the point. This chapter wasn't written for a stage. It was drawn in pencil, redrawn in ink, and framed in stillness. I keep the bracelet Mia gave me in the top drawer. Sometimes I wear it, sometimes I just hold it. It's my trophy. Not of pain, of presence. People ask if I ever hear from him. I say, not really, but I still get emails from brands asking if I'm open to speaking engagements. They want to hear the story. I tell them, it's not a speech, it's a structure. You walk through it quietly and leave changed. I bought myself a ticket to Spain last month. Just me, not to chase ghosts, to take back geography. I walked through alleyways once pictured without me. I didn't cry. I took photos, not of myself, but of doors, beautiful ones, closed ones, open ones. When I landed back home, Mia was waiting. She hugged me and whispered, "You look taller this time." I smiled and believed her. Gives he left For reinvention, I stayed and rebuilt, and this time I put my name on the deed.